MWO Leagues 1 and MWO Leagues 2. Our cast here is going to be starting off with WKL versus 228 DFA. Should be a fun time. And,
yeah, Pickle. Like yesterday, it looked like WKL kind of slogged through their second match against Snackwatch, losing a tight 2-1 to those guys. So here to take another crack at a 228 team, they've got DFA on deck. DFA yesterday kind of going through their matches, 2-0ing the Snackwatch team from 228, and then losing 0-2 to the dominant RJF performance.
RJF did operate fairly well last night, so let's see if anybody can take him down tonight, possibly. Should be a fun time. So yes, once again, MWO Leagues 1 is casting currently WKL versus DFA, and we do have a match going on over on MWO Leagues 2. Panic, can you tell us about that?
That's going to be Smoke Adders versus the Snackwatch team aforementioned. So yesterday you had Smoke Adders taking care of WKL in a swift 2-0 victory. And Snackwatch doing a lot of work yesterday. 3 matches for each of these teams. Snackwatch taking a beating, except for the last match against WKL, losing 0-2, both to RJF and to their sister team, the DFA from 228. So it'll be interesting to see on that channel whether they've recovered their morale enough to take on SA and provide them a significant competition in that match.
So for WKL versus DFA, looks like we've got both teams in the lobby right now.
Yep. Let me roll our random map, and we'll get this kicked off, Pickle. Are you ready for it?
I am ready for it. Let's do it. Let's roll the map. Who we're gonna get?
All right. We are going to get Mining Collective. So here we go.
All right, Mining Collective. Round 1. It's not actually round 1, but round 1 of the night.
The game 1 fight.
Game 1 fight. So what are your predictions for this round here, this matchup?
I don't know. These teams are pretty tight. If you look at their average Jarls list stats, they are separated by about a point. And that's really due to a large disparity. Some of the players on WKL's team, I mean, just going off of the statistics, they're a little bit lower on the average, but they've got a few ringers in there with, Yondu sitting at a 99.16 percentile on the Jarls list. While that isn't everything, that's fairly impressive, considering that the peak skill player for Snackwatch is sitting at 98.33. So you've got a little bit lower top end on Snackwatch side, or on DFA side rather, but overall the averages look pretty close.
All right, so as we begin to get the drop ships in here for round 1, WKL versus DFA.
Yeah, here they come.
Right, so on Team 2 side, DFA, Foxy in a Vapor Eagle, Draven in a Vulcan, Seabiscuit also in a Vulcan. We got Giggity Goo in a Vapor Eagle, and Pickledax in a Summoner. Fairly light drop with only Invictus also in a Summoner, so a very light drop from DFA. What do we see on WKL side?
So WKL has chosen to double up on the Nightjars, suffering that 10-ton penalty to take the second mech. Nightjars on this really dynamic map, there's a lot of verticality. Both of those mechs provide jump jets to get up high and use some of the elevated terrain on the map. We see one of them. I think Gitka has got Gitka's got a smattering of Daka, whereas Windscape seems to have some Gauss on his. So maybe looking to play a little bit of range there with the Blood Aspen, close support with Daka on that.
Brothker here taking a bit of damage in the Assassin, down to 92%.
Yeah, we see those PPCs coming out from the DFA side. trading from the high tower near the smokestacks in the upper right corner of the map by Beta. Really doing some work on the mechs that are trying to control the center from the elevated position down towards the south. Cyclone Jack eating a strike and going down to 80%. It's going to be really brutal if he has to slow roll this later. Those Vulcans have proved to be completely functional on this map, EMP using them to great effect in previous tournaments.
WKL doing a good job of setting up a quick firing line here.
Yeah, but you've got to look at the stats right now. You've got 38 seconds on the clock for 228 the DFA, so they have the cap advantage right now, and WKL is kind of suffering. They've got a full minute on the clock, so they've got to either force DFA out of the circle or take out Beta and Alpha to get that timer back down. Not only that, but you've got them taking actually the brunt of the damage in this the first 3 minutes here. You've really got Bro Tiger and Cyclone Jack at 48 and 60% respectively. It's huge. Those are two fast mechs which could have controlled circle that are now going to have to watch their backs. That's both teams just right now taking up defensive positions and trading.
Broth going down to 47% on that assassin. Cyclone Jack down to 60% here.
Yeah, Bro Tiger and Cyclone Jack making a move up the left-hand side of the map, trying to get something done here. Seems like they were just getting frustrated, taking damage for free in the back there. Both the Vulcan and the Assassin, neither of those mechs mount long-range weapons. They've snuck up behind Invictus here. Let's see if they can do something.
Invictus doesn't know they're there yet.
No, he's completely blind.
For the shot. Yeah,
oh, he knows now. But they've got the Vapor Eagle in there for close support. That Vapor Eagle might be in minimum range, though, if that's ATMs, which I think it is. So he can't actually do anything. Oh.
So just a little does take out Bro Tiger there. Cyclone Jack trying to get away.
Yeah. They got the jump on Invictus, hesitated a little bit too long, and Bro Tiger stayed actually overextending onto the D28 DFA side of the map, just eating it when the rest of their team came around the corner. They've managed to get Invictus in the Summoner Delta down to 53%. Didn't trade that for free, but I mean, only time will tell if it was a good trade.
Invictus is able to take out Cyclone Jack. Seabiscuit here, getting into the back of Mr. Summeru in that Blood Asp.
Yeah, you can see now that the DFA is starting to move a little bit more confidence, with the exception of their the Foxy Short Bus and the Vapor Eagle at the very back of the map. All the rest of them have moved up and are trying to put significant pressure here, but this tunnel vision is kind of causing that Pickle, Invictus, and Draven to take a lot of damage here. But they are coming out on top as the Blood Asp falls. Mr. Summeru going down, and Windscape following.
Here in that Night Gear. The Night Gear is a slow mech, but it can be a very formidable opponent. He might be able to clean up the rest of DFA here if he's careful. But he is 3v1 situation right here.
At this point, the numbers just don't bear out them winning the game. It's unfortunate because they although they took a lot of damage early game, they made a really decent play there. Oh, Yondu though coming in the raid boss.
In the raid boss with
oh,
his
just kidding.
Flashing.
This actually might be doable. Yeah.
It's now all up to Yondu and his raid boss. Can he do it?
Raid boss can do it. Raid boss, have faith.
Now Foxy.
Oh, but he's in minimum range. Actually, this is going to go to WKL. I'll eat my words.
He legs Foxy.
Oh yeah, it's over. Oh, raid boss.
Attempting to get away.
No, it's you tried to flee, but it failed. No, that was I'll eat my words there a little bit. That was a game throw on 228's part,
Foxy
which is
does
good.
Go down. So the first round of the night goes to WKL. That was a very interesting match to watch for sure.
Oh, a rubber band and a half for sure.
Let's take a look at the the damage numbers here on both sides. We've got Windscape and that Night Gear doing 549. Samaru doing 207 in that Blood Asp. Night Gear B and Getka there. He was late into the beginning of that end fight. We only see him do 481. Giggity Goo though, in that Vapor Eagle on DFA side, doing 700 damage there in that Vapor Eagle.
Yeah, no, actually, the guys from WKL did a fantastic job turning that around. It was very rubber bandy. It was, at first you saw two of their mechs take a lot of free damage, really getting destroyed by those long-range trading guys, and a couple good, well-placed strikes from DFA. However, in the as soon as they figured out that was sort of not working, the stagnation there, they made that move up the left-hand side of the map, came up to the twin ramps, the very top of Mining Collective. Got in there behind Invictus, caught him by surprise, and it forced DFA to shift all of their guys up to that top half of the map to try to respond to what was happening. They ended up getting corralled into this really narrow area that, again, if you looked at the early game trades, a lot of the guys from DFA taking long-range stuff, they're attempting to slow roll the map, right? They want to just get scratch damage and make WKL sweat until they're too hurt to do anything. But since WKL responded so early, got in range, brought their guns to bear at that sort of mid-range conflict up there in that tight area, they really gained the advantage over DFA and were able to destroy them in the second half of the game. Just really, despite losing the Blood Asp a little bit earlier than they probably would have liked, the Urban Mech and the last Vapor Eagle that was up. I could be mistaken.
It was a Vapor Eagle, yes.
Yeah, the last Vapor Eagle that was up at the end of the game, they're really clutching it out. I think that I pointed out that Foxy was standing fairly far back in that whole engagement. You just felt like at some point DFA was playing with a little bit too much confidence, like, aha, we've got we've got that mech down, we feel good about this, and they kind of were slow to get their entire force up to the area to respond to that.
So I did put the map straight up on screen here, so if you want to kind of talk about that and write on the map, you can.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No worries.
The early game strikes that were coming in were primarily focused here. So DFA had the PPC guys sitting up here with one Vapor Eagle there. And the Vapor Eagle here was kind of the crux of maybe the issue here. Because once these guys took damage, you saw Cyclone Jack and Bro Tiger move all the way up here. DFA had that summoner positioned, trying to deny WKL coming up on top of the central area, and they were able to get up behind him and force him back. So all of a sudden you had this massive shuffle. So after this first movement from DFA, you had the shuffle of, okay, we got to get the summoner back out here. We've got to get guys to come, up and around here. And what ended up happening was you had DFA packed up in this really tight little box here, right? And all of the guys from WKL came down to support their team, playing actually really well together to form a box like this. And, you look at this and you immediately recognize this is something akin to like crossing the T, right? So WKL has much more lines of fire. They can put guys on each of these little stacks here and really hammer into DFA. So the overconfidence here and then shoving up into this box at the top of the map really hamstrung their team in terms of its ability to do damage. And at that point, you pretty much lost. It was really a nice recovery from WKL, because I thought based on the early game damage that they took down here, I really did think they were going to have a hard time recovering, because if you recall, DFA had 38 seconds on the clock, so they had the game in their hands early on. But yeah, I don't know if you're. I guess everyone looks like they're ready for round two. It's up to you, man.
All right. Just finalizing a few things here. So, if we're ready for round two, thank you for that post-match analysis there, Panic. So, if we're all ready for round two, let's get the both teams are locked. Let's get the round going. Get the map selection started is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, map selection. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to roll random maps round two. So round two is either going to be Rubelite, Tourmaline, or Grimplexus. We've seen a lot of matches yesterday, actually. I think it was pointed out a few times that I think there was people taking, triple PPC stuff, like there's a 4 PPC Marauder somewhere in there. So this is very risky choices, since 2 out of the 3 maps here are quite hot. Tourmaline being one of the hottest maps in the game, and Ruby being either close behind or a little bit hotter or equal. I can't recall. But the only one that you can get that's half cold is Grim. So let's see what these guys have to play with. And it's Grim Plexus, so we're going to see a lot of this.
Okay.
Here we go.
So another long-range map. It's going to be interesting to see which team changes up their deck composition for tonight's for this match here. It's going to be interesting to see if we see more long-range mechs, more short-range mechs. And Grim Plexus really favors long-range engagements. You can do short-range engagements on it, but it's a lot easier to do long-range engagements. So it's going to be interesting to see what we see here.
Yeah, Grim Plexus is kind of interesting. Actually, I was looking at some of the games yesterday were taking note. In that last game, Yondu was playing in the Urban Mech K9. He played a Battlemaster yesterday on match 2 in Tourmaline Desert, and he's actually, although he's their best pilot, he's actually only played about 7% of his matches in recent memory in Assault Max. That's a significant, not a very significant amount of time sunk into learning those chassis. He's played 43% of these last 2 seasons, 34 and 35, in light mechs. So it was nice to see him really in that role that he's been working on and beating and grinding out in queue. I think it really did demonstrate his ability to kind of carry that game from at least through the late game in that raid boss there with the medium pulses on the K9. So let's see what they do this time around. Oh, Yondu going back to the Battlemaster for this round as the dropships descend on Grim Plexus.
Over on DFA side, we've got some Mad Cats of Vapor Eagle, Foxy once again, and Turbo J-Lo here in a Sunspider.
Now, what's on that Sunspider, or can we tell? You want me to jump in there and find out?
Yeah, if you want to jump in there and find out. Over on the other side of the map, we've got Windscape over here in a Flea, actually getting early cap on the circle. Almost took a PPC shot from his friendly in the back there. Mistakes almost happened there. So some longer range decks coming from WKL's side.
Yeah, the only mech that's on DFA side that appears equipped for long range is that Sunspider, which is I had a feeling, but he's running the Ultra 2s build on that, so he's got some decent range. Everyone else looks to be a close range.
So
but the problem we saw with that yesterday was that these teams didn't move early enough in the game, and what would happen is they would kind of I guess they stagnate with those Mad Cat Mark II Bravos on a hill just too far away, and you saw, I think, RJF really pummel and punish one of these T-28s teams for staying around the middle with those Mad Cat Mark IIs. By the time they were able to get in and actually think about closing, they were already too hurt to do anything about it.
Windscape here in the Flea on WKL side getting right up against.
Very ballsy.
Very aggressive move here.
He's been found out, though. Can they capitalize?
They pressure him away from their team here.
They found the UAV, so they're no longer spotted, but WKL in a commanding position right now. They understand the range of these mechs. They know that they can't get close and win the DPS battle, especially now that UAV has been put down and the DFA sort of strat is revealed. They've seen the Mad Cat Mark II Bravos. Now they know that they've got to stay back, and they've chosen the site that's normally associated with Epsilon. This little hill in the back of the map, if you look at where Gitka and Mr. Sumaru are camping out, look at the way the domination circle plays against the center of the map. That side has a lot of room. There's so much real estate in between the center hill and that little mound that a high DPS team, even if you do just fully commit, is going to have a hard time closing in time to do enough damage to your long range guys. It gives you ample opportunity to really kill them. If they had a jumping mech, they could actually get back up on the ridge behind where they are and even spot people moving around on the other side of the center hill. It's quite a dirty location. Wise choice.
Once again, WKL's lights attempting to get some back shots on DFA here. Attacking Giggity Goo in that Mad Cat Bravo. Unfortunately, Windscape does go down. He got a little too aggressive there. Not quite sure.
Yeah.
Not quite sure he knew that the rest of DFA was there. Cyclone Jack not able to get out of the fight in time here.
No, these are the kind of things that you can't do in a domination map where mode where you need to be patient and your team has a good positioning. So that's going to force Yondu or Ragnar. You see them moving down the hill a little bit on the right hand side, just to dip their toes in a circle. I mean, this side of the map does afford you a lot of freedom to sort of, get in the circle. It's not hard, but it does mean that they're going to be one mech down on firepower, and Cyclone Jack at 37% might as well be dead. If you've got dominant position, you just need to be careful. Don't give that up and throw it away. I say that from experience.
Cyclone Jack here attempting the trade against Draven and Turbo J-Lo. Draven down to 49% in that Piranha. Took a few PPC shots. Seabiscuit and the Mistlinks down to 54.
Yeah, both the Mistlinks and the Piranha really, some of the squishier light mechs, you have to be very careful with that. And actually, just looking at this, looking at these statistics, you got Draven Cult, which is in the Piranha 2. He's one of the lower percentile players on DFA's team. Also spends most of his time, 85% of his time in queue in medium mech. So Piranha is not just something you can pick up and sort of run around with and do really well. I mean, that's kind of a common misconception. So taking that one trade from Cyclone Jack and the Vapor Eagle, who got a nice PPC shot off on, that's going to hurt him a lot. Piranhas just are made of tissue paper and dreams. So if they get touched by weapons that are, like a PPC, that's going to open up some components, likely tear something off if you're hurt already.
Taking a look at the damage numbers here, DFA not looking too good. I can't tell what's damaged and what's not damaged, but I can only go from their percentage. Percentage-wise, WKL definitely has the advantage, aside from Cyclone Jack, who's hurting just a little bit, down to 31% in that Vapor Eagle. Now, earlier on in the fight, you did mention DFA does have a lot of closer range mechs, whereas WKL has longer range mechs. Right now, what we're definitely seeing a control by WKL. They are in a spot they want to be in. They have that long range. They have this firing line set up. DFA attempting to figure out what they want to do and how they want to engage WKL to effectively take them out. They have already taken out Windscape. And sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. That I was just about to say it to that point. Is it may be a little too late for DFA to start thinking about this? You look at the damage numbers here. I give you a better idea of what's going on here. Right now, WKL, most of their mechs, the exception of Cyclone Jack, very fresh. Seabiscuit, I was just in his cockpit. He's trying to take peeks at max range with those small lasers. He's now missing all of his machine guns. He's one-touch center torso. Draven Cult in that Piranha did get halved by that PPC shot, did have him. He's now about deep orange center torso, so he's not looking great. Even the Mad Cats on DFA's team, or DFA's side, are really sort of struggling at this point. Open side torsos, open arms. It's looking like they have a lot more sustained damage than the mechs that are left remaining. Of course, with the exception of Cyclone Jack on the WKL side. I think WKL right now is sitting in a position that they want to be in. They like this sort of extended engagement, because the longer the match goes on, if they're winning these trades consistently, then they're going to be the guys that can come in and clean up at the end. They're not going to have to worry about it.
And that seems to be the case as to what is going on currently. We're seeing a lot of attempted pokes being done by DFA, but their mechs are taking a lot of damage because they just don't have the range to make these pokes. Now look at Mr. Summerer right now. He's pushing up alone in that Warhawk.
I mean, he's got some balls here. This may actually be a good play. He's supported just he was being supported by the Hellbringer Virago, but he's probably gonna. DFA probably has the legs to take this guy down.
He is pushing up completely alone, taking a lot of damage from DFA's entire team here, down to 44%. There is a strike on him. He doesn't see it. He's about to back up right into the strike. I think that's one of his teammates' strikes.
No, that was a teammate strike
Invictus
trying to
does
cover the
take him
retreat,
out.
but
And now
Yeah,
DFA
you're-
has decided they
Ooh.
want to try and make a push. Cyclone Jack does go down.
I mean, if they're going to make a push, it's got to be now. If you look at how close these two mechs are, they actually should just kill the, try to kill Gitka, try to kill Baron, and then just, time it and move over on the remaining guy, Yondu, sitting at max range of that Battlemaster.
Draven Cult does go down.
And you should expect to see a lot of that. These mechs are on their last legs for DFA, so as they push forward, they're going to have to give up armor. And the question is, do they have the teamwork and do they have the sort of mental fortitude to understand that, yeah, a lot of you are going to die during this combat, but you got to do this right now. If not now, then never.
Seabiscuit getting into the back of Gitka. I don't know if Seabiscuit has any weapons because
He
he's not
doesn't.
actually firing on Gitka right now.
No, he is out of weapons, that one.
Yondu and that Battlemaster backing up, keeping DFA at his maximum range. Ragnar staying down there in the little valley there to the left.
Oh, actually, this is much worse than you think it is at first blush. Both those Madcat Mark IIs are stripped of their arms. They have no more weapons. The only weapons remaining on the field right now are Foxy Shortbus in the Veagle, who may or may not be stripped, and Turbo with the UAC 2s. But
Yondu
Turbo
does
goes
take out
down.
Turbo. Now, we did see Foxy have a fair amount of armor left compared to his friends about halfway into this fight. So if Foxy still has weaponry, he might be able to take out Yondu here.
Foxy has a single ATM-9 at this point and is looking grim.
Things are not looking good for DFA at this time.
It's kind of interesting. He's some of these
DFA does have the mechs advantage, but they don't have the weaponry advantage.
yeah, and that's really where
It's just Yondu and Ragnar, but Yondu and Ragnar, even though they don't have a lot of armor right now, look at this. Giggity Goo not able to do a single thing to Yondu. Yondu still has all 4 of his large weapons.
yeah, Yondu should be able to carry this match irrespective of how many weapons that single Vapor Eagle does or doesn't have. I said that last match. I tried to make a knee-jerk prediction. A lot of the times these matches are decided based on numbers alone. So when WKL in the Mining Collective match went down several mechs really early, I mean, it just steamrolls so quickly, or snowballs rather, in these 6v6s. It's hard to come back from. But I think DFA put themselves up a creek by selecting these sort of pushing mechs, and again they did the same thing we saw yesterday in that match versus RJF, where RJF camped out on the other hill on the opposite side of the map. If you put the brakes on those Madcat Mark IIs, they're never going to get in place fast enough for you to be able to actually make a push that doesn't involve you getting shot a lot. So what we saw is they come up to the ridge in like Foxtrot 7 on the edge of the center hill. You look at where the enemy team is. They're already set up. Somebody probably from DFA poked that hill, said, oh, they're all there, stop. And the brakes were put on, and then the pace of the game slows down, and it really just enables what just happened here, which is the last mech with weapons on DFA's team goes down. WKL just walked away with it from that point on.
Yeah.
And that is a 2-0 victory in favor of WKL.
Alright, let me publish the match IDs. Let's take a look at some of the damage numbers here. Foxy Shropus in that Vapor Eagle doing 717. Invictus, Giggity Goo and those Madcats 613 and 486 respectively. So a fair amount of damage against WKL's mechs. But as you said, the rest of their team didn't have the range to effectively trade against WKL. Yondu there doing 764, and Ragnar and that Hellbringer doing 656.
Yeah, actually, that's kind of that's expected from Yondu, and at least Yondu's one of their better players. Ragnar is in the 86th percentile on Jarl's list. I mean, it doesn't make too much of a difference, but if we look at his stats, he's played about 146 games this last 2 seasons of MechWarrior Online. He's played about 22% at Assault, so he plays mostly mediums, but and only 21% in heavy. So. But you can pretty effectively play an ER large mech on anything. That's a pretty cross-platform mech as long as you're in the right place. And I think really the culprit here, the driving force behind this victory was just their positioning.
All right, let's I have a graphic up here for statistics involving the match that just happened. It does say Martial Olympian Reborn on there, but that's just a logo. Please ignore that. Currently, these are the stats for that match that actually just happened. We'll take a look at that for about a minute here, and then I'll open up the map strat, and we'll let Panic talk a little bit about the map strat here.
Yeah, I just find it funny that looking at these games yesterday and the games today, there's some very there's very repetitious, there's very repeatable or repeated mistakes. A lot of times you see the same things happening. Teams getting up in points, and as a member of the team famous for getting somewhere good and then stagnating and throwing, I have a lot of expertise in this area. It's the same sort of a fear factor or ill planning that goes into creating a situation where your team just gets to a certain point on the map or a certain point in the game and sort of sits on their thumbs, and you end up scratching your head later wondering how you could have done something so clutch early and then still suffer a defeat. But it just happens, and a lot of these teams here they're all playing to win, so you can't just quit halfway through. WKL in that match one is on Mining Collective a supreme example of this. They're still there. They're still fighting, and they're gonna come back and bite you for that.
All right, my apologies. It looks like the overlay that I have for the stats is actually not updating correctly, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. I've put the map strat up here on the screen, so if you want to head on over to the map strat, Panic, and try and walk us through what went on there.
Sure. I'll go back and beat the drum a little bit more here. The initial movement from DFA starting on Team 2 side was to bring those Mark IIs down to this corner here. This is sort of the infamous corner in public queue here. You need to watch out for this, and I'll do a public service announcement right now. If you try to drop down and do a rotation here through these two rocks, you're probably going to lose. That's like the worst place in the map to be. So DFA comes over here and sets up in the yellow box, right? And you have the risky play early game, which probably was, I mean, it was arguably worth it. I think that I would have liked to see that light mech from WKL visually acquire the Madcap Mark II Bravos. It just sort of clock them at a distance rather than sneaking all the way up here to put the UAV down. That was quite a dangerous play, but really, as soon as WKL sort of saw these dots start popping up here, then that they were pretty confident in their position. They set up on this back hill here, and actually I think if I'm not wrong, the domination circle on this map strat is just ever so slightly out of date, because I could be wrong, but it appeared to me like the actual domination zone sort of almost extended up into this onto this hillside, because you had Ragnar and a couple of the guys were able to just take 2 steps forward and be in the circle, and that was really enabling WKL to control the map. As you proceeded through past the early game, 228 got to that corner yellow box and just sat there. I think their best chance to win in that moment would have been to recognize that if they had some scouts come up here and spot these guys moving to the hill. You see WKL coming all the way back here, rolling really wide, or you see some targets beginning to come up out of the ditch. You need to see at that moment, we don't have the equipment to deal with that. None of us have ER large lasers. Not only one of us has AC2s. We have to get in range. So at that very moment, if you do not make the knee-jerk decision to just go ahead and say, okay, no brakes, we're going, we got to get into range, then you're not going to have a chance to deal with those guys in the back of the hill. So it seemed to me like their plan was to try to sweep, to stay in this little pocket here and sweep left and right and try to find who's in the circle from WKL. So they've got to be somewhere over here. But like I said, I think this is a little bit inaccurate. And you actually have a little bit more real estate back here. So WKL's got all the space in the world that they need to hide people in there and make sure that they've got guys in circle. So you can't really effectively deny them circle. So then it's all WKL's game. And they actually, Pickle, if you noticed halfway through that, they actually tried really hard to give the game back to DFA. You saw those mechs move up sort of solo, way too wide. There's no need to scout these guys going up this way. You already know they're there. You already know they've got Madcap Mark II Bravos. You don't need to be there. You just need to ignore it. A lot of these games, especially on DFA side, Seabiscuit, Draven Cult taking pokes against WKL, who has a ton of range. No, they have range. They're just getting punished. They get halved really early. That light mech on WKL's side takes a poke, tries to scout something that doesn't need scouting, and just gets punished for it immediately. Cyclone following him shortly behind. So that's something that we really need to work with. Like on these teams need to work on this moving forward. You've got to have the mindset, the mental fortitude to slow down and say, we are winning this game. We need to stop. You guys need to chill out. We don't need that information right now. We have the lines. Yondu just had the lines. Him, Ragnar just crushing it on the back hill. Every time someone from 228th poked up to try to take a hit, they were immediately met with tons of ER large laser fire and an immense amount of control from WKL. A dominant strategy on this map, and really there was no chance. I mean, the throw from Samaru coming in there with a Warhawk and getting bricked by the Madcap Mark II Bravos, who I'm sure that they knew those guys still had weapons. That's so much DPS. You just can't come in there alone without your team supporting you and think that you're going to walk away from that alive. If DFA had tried to roll that, they just WKL said, okay, no, we're not dealing with this. We're going to shoot the Mad Cat's arms off. We've already stripped the mislinks. All we got to worry about is this Sun Spider. And he walked up in the middle, Turbo. He tried to take some shots. He came up here to try to support his teammates as they were pushing through, chasing the WKL guys back this way. And he just got punished for it because he was the only one left with that was a threat. And that was how that went, man.
All right, so with that being said, what is the next matchup to happen tonight?
The next matchup these guys are going to be in, so we're going to see WKL come back and play RGF. So that's coming off of this victory though. Right. They're on a little bit of a high. Maybe they're going to take that energy and move forward into RJF is not invincible. None of these tier 1 teams are invincible, and like I think in the Discord we've had discussions about it. Hopefully in future tournaments we're going to see all those guys come out and really duke it out in this format. So WKL has to take their positive attitude and understand that yes, RGF is a good team. They're not going to make as many mistakes maybe as DFA made tonight. If you look at their Jarls list stats, it's very clear who has an advantage in terms of the overall skill level. If you just like those stats pages, but WKL teamwork can make up a lot of distance here. So they need to just take that mentality and move forward. Yeah.
All right. So a couple of things from the matches here on WKL side. They did seem to take a lot of strikes, especially their light mechs. I did notice a few times DFA's light mechs did that a little bit too. They took a few strikes, took a few shots. They shouldn't. As a light pilot, you really, really need to be careful, especially a Piranha, a Mislinks, mechs that don't have a lot of armor but have a lot of crit chance and capability. You can't get yourself into a position where you can see an enemy 500 meters away from you and your small lasers go out to 400 meters and the enemy that you're staring at's got PPCs. That's not going to end well for you. We did see that a few times from DFA's side. Their lights have to be very, very careful. Poking out against a PPC Huntsman, for example, when you're a Piranha is not going to end well for you. And on the topic of lights and stuff, you have to be careful of strikes when they go out. We saw a few times WKL's lights getting a lot of damage taken to them from strikes, so that's definitely something you have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, strikes are have been sort of a big deal off and on in MechWarrior Online as they've been nerfed and then buffed and then nerfed again. So yeah, they're just free damage. If you can get a good strike out on a location where you know that there are people hanging out behind cover. We saw it game 1 with WKL's mechs up on top of the building. We saw it in drop 2 with WKL actually returning the favor and giving DFA some hot strikes. That's just going to be a lot of free damage early. That in a standoff situation is going to really aid the teams that use them in the long run. You don't see a lot of it in public queue because people usually don't want to spend money unless they want to win. Than they do, but I mean, like, you see far less of it in public queue. You get punished a little bit less in public queue by strikes. UAVs are another big deal. I don't think we've seen a lot of throughout this tournament. I think I saw a couple I saw a ton in on the mining collective drop up near the twin ramps. UAVs are a phenomenal way to give your team just that little bit of extra intelligence that they cannot use to avoid throwing the game, or really capitalize on somebody that may be a little bit out of position that thinks they're safe behind a wall. So those consumables are a big deal. Like, that's not a small issue. If you have to be this game really punishes you. You can't use your cool shots, your UAVs, your strikes, what have you, effectively.
And with this current rules bracket, we don't have any limit on consumables, and there's no restrictions on consumables either. So that is completely up to the teams and up to the pilots to determine what they want and what they want to bring in terms of consumables. So you could stack up on arty strikes, you could stack up on well, anything you wanted. Cool shots, UAVs, all that fun stuff. So it looks like we are set for the next pairing. Just waiting on a few final details. Looks like over on the MWO Leagues 2, Smoke Adders has actually won their match. Smoke Adders versus Snackwatch. So Snackwatch does go down. Smoke Adders moves on up. So it looks like the next pairing is going to be, if I'm correct, WKL versus Smoke Adders?
The next pairing there is it's actually the 228th team that's got to play them again. The DFA is going to play Smoke Adders round 5. This is the final game set of games for the group stage of this tournament. As if you guys don't know, the group stage, the tournament split up sort of like this the real football or soccer if you're from the United States World Cup. So it's got a group stage at first. That's supposedly Swiss pairing. That sets people up to play a elimination bracket, which I believe will be played next weekend. So this is the final. These are the final 2 rounds of group stage, round 4 and 5. So in round 5 of the group stage, the very last one for this evening, we've got 228th Death from Above versus Smoke Adders, and then we've got RJF versus WKL. Both matches could go either way. Of course, RJF the favorites here. I mean, jokes aside about their team being allowed to participate over some others. Historically speaking, they've been in the upper middle of the pack. You classify them in previous years at like the top end of a Div B or the middle of the pack in Div A. So they're obvious favorites coming into this last round versus WKL. But WKL is kind of a wild card. They played extremely well in these last 2 tournaments, More 8, ISC. Actually, I remember them specifically from More 8 really coming up and giving a good showing with some of their pilots carrying a lot. So hopefully, again, WKL can take that energy forward and really give RJF a run for their money. Maybe we'll see some unique strategies or some different ways to counter what RJF is doing. Those Annihilators being playing a crucial role for RJF and really controlling and dominating a lot of these maps. That's been sort of I would almost qualify that as sort of a European style of play. We saw Eon Synergy and JGX and RJF all sort of deploying those to great effect during the WC of last year. And then we've just continued the theme throughout these last couple of tournaments. Then on the other hand, we've got DFA versus Smoke Adders. Smoke Adders having a nice victory over Snackwatch moving forward into this round should be again high energy. So Biscuit and his team of 228 Death from Above guys really kind of need to rally now. They've got to take these few minutes between matches. Shake it off, convince themselves that it's not, that was good play by WKL. Yeah, they made mistakes. They need to take a deep breath, refocus, go over their strategies, go and grab a drink or take a bio break, take a chill pill, walk around for a few minutes, get their headspace right, and then come back and try to take a crack at Smoke Adders, or else this could go very badly for them. So, it's kind of it's part of the mental fortitude.
All right. Whenever you're ready, I'm ready on having the teams come into the lobby and get things set up here.
I actually as a gag here, I gave WKL a 5-minute bathroom break, so we're gonna get back together in about 2 minutes here. I'm gonna invite people to the lobby, and then we'll give them then we'll start going over the matches. I'll go ahead and get them in here though. I need to roll for who's gonna be Team 1. All right, so for the next match, we're going to have RJF is going to be Team 1.
All right, sweet.
getting
RJF versus WKL.
Getting the teams into lobby.
All right, so it looks like both teams are now in the lobby, waiting on everybody to ready up.
Oh, let me clarify that.
So you said RJF is Team 1?
Oh, hold on a second.
Okay.
What? We have the other lobby. Oblivion pulled the rug out from under us. No, we've got the we're having DFA versus SA.
Okay.
I didn't know Oblivion was doing that for me. I feel a little bit less just tell these guys to get out of here.
Okay. So we have DFA versus SA? I mean, we have them in the lobby and they're all mostly ready to go.
It's okay.
Okay. All right, so actually, RJF and WKL are actually going to be, their match, sorry, is going to be cast in MWO Leagues 2.
Yep. So if you look at we've just got this the message that was stuck up in pairings channel that the Oblivion has announced that RJF as versus WKL will be casted by Matt and Adam over on MW Leagues 2 for round 5. WKL won the coin flip and will be Team 1 for that match. Now on this channel we will have Seabiscuit with DFA and Smoke Outers, and that will be SA has won that coin flip, so SA will be Team 1, so I'll have to get their invite out first. Let's see. That's what I get for trying to be too proactive and just inviting people immediately.
That's okay.
It's fine.
It happens from time to time.
It's whatever. We haven't goofed too badly yet, so we'll be okay. We're not being shot so far. We'll get out of this without being fired yet, Pickle.
Yeah, we're not fired yet.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
All right, title has been updated.
Nice.
So, seeing what we've seen from DFA, and we saw, I personally saw quite a bit from SA last night. What are your predictions in terms of how these matches are going to go?
Well, I mean, you've got, so again, I'll I'll briefly go to the stats here, and the stats don't look good for DFA. You've got a 7% average change between DFA's Yarls list score for just these last 2 seasons. Remember, I'm kind of ignoring old data because some of these pilots, you come and go. You might have had a good season a while back, but recently you might not have been doing so well, or the other way around. You could be doing phenomenally recently and have had down, low scores in the past. Like we're always joke about that. You can actually see looking at some of the pilots on like a team like Blackwatch that played the stock mechs in Q to practice for the WC last year. You have a huge dip in their average scores because they were playing stock Intersphere mechs for a month or two. But it's 97.72 average Yarls list percentile for these guys from SA, only 90.6% from DFA. So just on paper, it looks like you'd expect SA to kind of walk on them a little bit. The high mark for SA is good try with a 99.92, very high. It's a 49% of his matches are in light mechs and 32 in medium mechs. I don't know if you're aware of how the Yarls list scoring works, but it gives a lot of weight to people playing light mechs. I think it's easier to get a higher adjusted score, therefore a higher percentile playing those lighter weight classes. So that might be a reason for that, but that's still kind of a scary number to look at when you consider, again, that the highest score on the DFA side is Giggity at like 98.33. That's, you're really kind of the disparity there is huge. The average games played as well. You look at actually the average games played is pretty close. An average of DFA is 383 this last season, whereas the guys in SA dropped about 361 games on average. Low end for SA is actually quite low compared to DFA. The DFA guys I know, Biscuit whips them until they log on and play MechWarrior, but the lowest number of games played for DFA is 66. As compared to 27 for SA. So 27 games isn't a lot to get practice in to play one of these tournaments, but it just depends on what they've been working on in their free time in private lobbies. You know that the Yarls list doesn't track private lobby stats, so it's kind of difficult. I'm trying to find SA at the moment, so give me one moment.
That's okay. I'm just sending a few messages here. People are pinging me. We're just trying to organize the matchup here. So a little bit of what I saw from last night in terms of Snackwatch, and I think this carries over a little bit to DFA as well. Snackwatch really wanted to get in there and brawl, and we definitely saw that on that final match last night on Hibernal Rift. They want to get in there and brawl. They're good at brawling. They know what they want. They know what they like, and they know they're good at it. DFA seems to be favoring that as well, and I think if they're able to get into a brawl situation with the team they're up against, much in a situation like that previous match we saw, DFA did bring a lot of very close range mechs. So if they're able to get themselves into a position where they can actually push on a team like, for example, WKL, I think they have a better chance of winning. But unfortunately for them, as we saw during that match, that last match that we just casted, they were not actually able to get a good push going where they didn't take a load of damage near the beginning of the push. So in these upcoming matches, depending on the map, it's going to be interesting to see what they do, and it's going to be interesting to see if we see a brawl situation, or if they see them attempt to set up for a brawl. Smoke Adders, I don't exactly remember. I think they wanted to go for more of a mid-trade engagement. So it's anyone's guess here as to how the matches are going to go, but I'm excited to see them for sure.
Yeah, and again, I mean, it's just a matter of it's a matter of these teams, having an idea about building these decks, getting a concept for the deck down. You have Madcap Mark II Bravos. You have to move in. You cannot let those guys sit at 700 meters. The AC-10s, AC-5s actually have range to engage at that distance, but in a trading scenario versus something pinpoint or PPCs, You're either losing damage numbers by spreading AC-10s and AC-5s out across the entire mech. They're able to twist that off and really spread the damage out, whereas you're getting nailed with a pinpoint shot from a laser, or in the case of PPCs, they're popping up over a ridge. You're firing your ACs. You're praying that they get there before the guy hits you with PPCs and then descends back down into cover. It's not really a good scenario, so you don't want to let that happen. And a lot of these teams, although they spend a lot of time building these decks, issues you run into are just people not timing things out. Can an Annihilator or can a ER Large Laser, Hellbringer, or what have you get to this point of the map to shut me down before I'm able to actually get where I need to go to be effective in the Mad Cat? And that's sort of the question you've got to ask when you're building something for a big map like Grim, even Rubelite or Tourmaline in that same map pool. Tourmaline's about the closest engagement you get with the infamous downhill ridge alpha to alpha spawn, where you had the people just trading immediately with heavy weaponry in some previous tournaments, like in the 2016 WC. That's the only map you can think of in that second map pool that really lends itself to anything other than a long-range standoff in terms of like the easiest thing to play on the map. Right. We got both teams in lobby, so we got their.
Oh God.
Yep. So we got both teams in lobby here. Penix just checking to make sure that nothing illegal is going on, and then we should roll the map. So for drop 1.
Should we check to see if something illegal is going on?
Yes.
I'll wait until they're locked up.
Okay. So for drop 1, the pool of maps is Canyon Network, Mining Collective, and Bog. Drop 2 is Rubelite, Tourmaline, and Grim. And if there is a drop 3 and 4, drop 3 is Forest Colony, Hibernal Rift, and Frozen City. And then drop 4 is Canyon Network, Mining, and Viridian Bog. So for the first matchup between Smoke Adders and DFA, the map pool will be Canyon, Mining, and Collective, so we will see... Sorry. Canyon, Mining, and Viridian Bog. So we'll see one of those 3 maps.
I mean, we can just hopefully forget about that last one, right? The Viridian Bog is kind of like the boogeyman of this map pool. It's not used in a lot of tournaments. It's very complex. There's a lot of roots and things that are all over the place. It's really kind of nasty to move around on.
Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of, like you see, for example, Canyon Network and Mining Collective are very symmetrical. There's a lot of lanes of attack, a lot of lanes of defense. Viridian Bog doesn't really have that here, actually. If we take a look at the map strat, that's not... If we take a look at the map strat here for Viridian Bog... Domination... What we see is kind of like Solaris City, where you have, of course, the domination circle close to the center of the map, but there's not too many lanes of attack and defense here. I guess more similar to that of Crimson Strait, where you really only have 2 main lines of attack. We have a lot of the teams. What they do is they kind of wrap around this corner here, while the other team kind of wraps around this corner. There's most of the time the engagement actually ends up happening around that big rock there. Now, because this is domination, we're gonna see, of course, a situation a little bit closer to this big domination circle. So, if we do get Viridian Bog, it's gonna be interesting to see what we get here.
Okay, cool. Oh, no worries. Oh, you want to wait then? Wait 30 seconds then. I know. Do you want me to wait if you have to leave your chair for 30 seconds? He's leaving. Everyone, it's just you and me now. I have control. And you're all my prisoner. We won't start the match until he comes back. And there's nothing you can do about it. Oh, damn it. Okay, cool. All right, so we're ready to go. Both teams are legal, and I'm going to engage the first map. First map for this set of this best of 3 is actually going to be Canyon Network. Let's go.
Oh boy, Canyon Network. All right.
Very classic. Seen in almost every tournament. Considered to be one of the most balanced maps in MechWarrior Online. That and Tourmaline Desert really are not crowd favorites maybe because people whinge and moan about seeing them so much, but definitely some really fun maps for the players to move around on because they have a lot of options. Have a lot of both maps are decently vertical, have a lot of cover, but have some avenues for closing in and really messing stuff up at close range if you want to. So plenty of options.
All right, so round 1.
Yeah, I don't know if
Adders.
you noticed, but I noticed that the DFA, and I had to go double check that real quick. That's why I left the channel. The double from DFA. Look at that. So you've actually got duplicate assassins, duplicate linebackers, and duplicate stormcrows on DFA's side. They've taken a 30-point or 30-ton penalty to field that. So they dropped at 320, bringing their ton max up to so it drops their tonnage max to 330. So they're 10 tons below that, but still looks like a potentially fast brawl situation.
Over on the Smoke Adder side, we've got some Piranhas, a Javelin, Annihilator. Smoke Adder's definitely vying for a heavier deck, a little bit slower.
Yeah, actually, this is not the claim that they are copying, but this is a nice pairing of the Annihilator 1A and the CPS. The Sleipnir, hero mechs being allowed, providing an additional mech really good at either DACA or Heavy Gauss, whichever they chose. DACA in this case. A nice platform to try to deal with this incoming DFA push. So DFA opting to go wide behind some cover, not really sure if that's going to net them an advantage. Now they've got to close in.
They do have Seabiscuit over here in this Assassin in behind Smoke Adders. But Smoke Adder's main force is focusing heavily on 228's main force right now.
No, the linebacker taking a sharp right and immediately getting focused. As he closes in quickest, he's becoming the primary target. You've got the Annihilator from Unfearing relatively unaccosted. They're going after this Warhammer down low in the ditch. Some of these mechs are going to have a hard time with torso depression actually engaging targets at the bottom of the ditch. Actually taking down Kamichiwa with relatively low losses. The linebacker is not is a 10 tons less of a mech to lose than the Warhammer. So first trades initially don't look terrible, but this is not sustainable for a DFA. And Seabiscuit's still not able to really get involved here. If you take a gander back and pull the camera away, you notice that there's 8 million UAVs up as DFA and Smoke Adders try to deal with this really tight furball here.
That there are a lot of UAVs flying in the air right now.
The Annihilator is sitting atop the ridge, maintaining that dominant position despite taking a ton of damage. I mean, he just has to be up there in order to assert control over the match, and that he is right now.
Looks like Pickledax here is actually legged in that Stormcrow.
That would make sense. In a really fast rush like this, it's easy to... well, it's not easy to, but it's one of the better choices to try to leg something if it's in the open running. That way it just can't get involved. You can back away from a legged mech very easily, especially if they're running some short-range builds, which these are. So this is going to go handily in the favor of Smoke Adders, and we'll take a look at the map and and go a little bit deeper into that in a minute. We'll, as we get into this post game here, the last mech Invictus falling in that linebacker, the hands of Smoke Adders.
So the first drop does go to Smoke Adders. Unfearing there, down to 31% in that mech that he has there.
Yes, but the work. Taking a look at the damage numbers, 704 damage of the Annihilator 1A. For as much hate as I personally give the Annihilator for being a slow, plodding weapons platform, if it's anywhere near conflict, if it's in range and you don't pay attention to it, it will drop your team. It is an amazing weapons platform, sporting builds like the ER large spam. It's got AC2 spam. It's got heavy Gauss. It's got LB10s. It can be any number of things, and all of those things do a lot of damage. So you really just can't let it sit up at the top of the ridge wailing on your team and expect to come out of that matchup on top.
All right, so Panic, I'm going to give you a few minutes. I'm going to let you go into the map strat here. So talk to us about what you saw in terms of the match, initial positions, all that fun stuff. I'll let you take the stage here.
I mean, rush decks on this map from Charlie spawns on either side are actually quite common. This is kind of one of the like bread and butter strategies. You see it happen a lot in solo queue and group queue. If people are rolling in, you see this push down this line and roll around this corner. Most of the time, actually, of course, you put on my Nextel Sprint Cup hat and tell you, well, we got to get NASCAR on this. You got to start from blue team, Charlie, and turn the corner left. But red team can do the same thing when you get into a comp match, right? So you get organized teams facing off against one another. The closest distance between either of these teams is usually Charlie to Charlie. Given that a lot of these big ridges here block your paths from Alpha. We've seen some left side of the map pushes, but realistically, what happened in that last thing excluded everything. There was nothing happening to the left of this pink line here. You had one mech from DFA, I believe it's Seabiscuit and Assassin, track down this ditch to try to give some pressure, but instead of coming close to the mountain here where these lines are, the DFA Brawl group of linebackers, Stormcrows, and the other Assassin kind of took this winding road out here and looped around this far barrier. There's a little mound there that blocks the shots from SA. And you saw SA had a single mech here in the back that started tracking this way as soon as it saw the rush coming, and the rest of their guys were roughly positioned along that ridge line. Now, under most circumstances, this is actually a really good, under most Brawl circumstances, the positioning of the mechs from the SA team were actually really bad, right? Because most Brawl lines on this from Charlie Lance come up over this ridge, either around that rock in one of the two sides, and then come straight along this ridge line, because they know that the primary objective for a Brawl team as it's closing in is not to deal damage or have good lines on the enemy team. It's really just to get as close as possible with taking as little damage as possible. So if you have mechs in a line right there, the blue dots from SA, if you watch that match again, they're going to be somewhat up here. It's not exact, but you get the feeling. And if you're in that tight line, then only this forward mech right here can actually engage targets that are coming at it from that direction. So as the mechs closed in from this really wide angle out here where they did, in fact, they turned that bonus into a really bad penalty, because now you've got all of these SA mechs can look at you. Every single one of these guys had firing lines on the incoming DFA team. And instead of tracking immediately, you saw Giggity Goo and the linebacker dive down here when he realized what was happening. The rest of these guys continued tracking this way. I mean, they're just walking across a shooting gallery, right? You have all of these mechs sitting up here from SA that are just banging down these guys from DFA as they try to close in. That's not really what you want as a Brawl team. And we saw this last game. We see this, repeatedly. A lot of teams, even if they're very good, very practiced, if you turn a corner here, and you scout, oh, there's an Annihilator, and a Sleipnir, you really don't want to take damage, and so you go this way because there's cover there. But then, the rest of your team behind you also sort of makes the same decision. Maybe I should go over there, and you end up with this just train wreck of people taking the longest possible way around to close with that team. To their credit, SA did a phenomenal job just, recognizing that, okay, if they're going to run around, if they're going to run around this long way, if they're going to take all this, distance to get to us, then we don't need to move. This is completely fine, and we're just going to sit up here. And even when they got into the furball, I'll give massive kudos to Unfearing and that Annihilator. Even when these mechs closed in here and you had guys diving down here and on this side and pretty much everywhere, it was massive confusion. What was the one thing SA could always rely on? The rock on top of this mountain here. Annihilator, right there on that dot. Just sitting there, dominating. He can fire either direction and just engage threats. There's, DFA's got mechs over here, he's got it covered. DFA's got mechs down here, he's got it covered. So that really won them the game. The positioning was phenomenal. The play was good. They just knew that they were in the right place. They just capitalized. So We can
right.
get on to match 2, man.
Yep, let's get on to the match 2 here. Both teams look like they're ready. Thank you for that post-game analysis. Appreciate it.
Yeah, very welcome. Okay, so let me just do a quick check, make sure nobody's bringing anything illegal here.
And for those of you joining us just now, this is the 228th hosted Summer Grand Prix competitive tournament. 6v6 rule set. Currently, we've got Smoke Adders versus DFA. Smoke Adders did take that drop away from DFA. Round 1. Let's see what we've got for round 2 here.
Getting a good healthy ribbing from SA, jumping in to check and see what shenanigans are doing. Good. I'm glad. Keeping in high spirits here. So, moving on, the round 2 maps. We have our pick between Tourmaline Desert, Rubelite Oasis, and Grimplexus. Again, 2 of the 3 of those maps very hot. So, these teams can take some risky rolls to see if they get lucky with that Grimplexus, or if they have to deal with the heat on Rubelite or Tourmaline. And I will roll the map now. Okay, looks like we have Grimplexus again. So now I'm going to launch into these maps and drop these guys straight in here.
All right, Grimplexus. I'm excited to see what we've got.
I got to find it first. There
It's
it
okay.
is.
There it is.
Okay, got it.
We got it.
We're there.
All right, round 2.
Yeah, so Grimplexus again. I'm sure that this is going to bring up some really fresh, rough memories for DFA. I'll be interested to see whether they change up from those Mad Cat Mark II Bravos or whether they go for that again.
I think if they change up or if they stay the same, as long as they make a dedicated push and have the capability and the speed to get there, those Mad Cat Mark IIs are not the slowest assault mech out there. They can definitely move if they try real hard. So I think if DFA is able to get a position going, have all of their teams say, "Look, we want to be here," I think they can do it. They just have to actually, step on the gas pedal.
No, and according to Smoke Adders, none of them are going to take executioners into this, which I'm personally glad for, as that would be, I would just freeze up and panic, and I wouldn't be able to talk the whole time, having flashbacks to Polar Highlands, and only doing 12 damage on a live match on stage. I would seize up and cease to function.
Well, luckily these pilots here are not on stage, so there's a lot less pressure. So what we see from DFA here is more or less the same thing. Foxy and that Vapor Eagle there, Turbo J and that Sun Spider. You know how much I love Sun Spiders. Thank you, Turbo. And then Giggity Invictus there and those Mad Cat Bravos.
Yeah, they've got Sun Spider's got those UAC 2 Daka again. We've got they've put Lawrence Elsa in subbed in for Draven Cult, notably taking the Piranha 3 this time over the Piranha. I think it was a 2 last time. I could be wrong. Somebody can correct me in chat. It's fine. I don't care.
CBS doing that mislinks.
That's the Laser Piranha in conjunction with the Mislinks, again piloted by Seabiscuit. The SA side of this match is a little bit entertaining. You've got the Sun Spider, you've got the Mad Cat Marauder 2C-8. Let's see what that's about.
Kevster here in a Huntsman, Captain Judas in the Vapor Eagle, Yin Yang in a Summoner. 2 PPC Summoner there.
Yeah, this is the risky roll that I was talking about, actually. That Marauder 2C-8 is actually quad ER PPC, so it's, like a duplicate of it's a poor man's Warhawk. I'm not sure. I'll admit to being very ignorant on the actual quirks that mech has, which enable it to run those better than the Warhawk. But they look like they're entirely made up of PPC, like PPC snipers. They've got a couple mechs here with PPCs and AC-10s. Yeah, Ultra AC-10s ER PPC on their Sun Spider, and then ER or medium lasers on the light mech. So looks like SA is going for a standoff for sure.
Now, we did see SA bring that 3 PPC Marauder last night on the same map.
Quad PPC Marauder. And again, that's That's what I was referring to earlier. It's a relatively risky move if you think about what could potentially happen here. Rubelite Oasis or Tourmaline Desert gets rolled, and all of a sudden you're looking at problems. And sort of speaking of problems here,
228
is
making a push here against Smoke Adders.
they're making a move down into that F8 region on that corner. The Marauder, Madcat Mark II Giggity is just getting pounded, and so is Invictus.
Looks like they're attempting to make a push onto that mound.
Maybe scared from that last match with WKL. It doesn't seem like they've noticed that SA actually doesn't have the same spread. They're much closer to them than the WKL guys were.
This is definitely a very precarious situation for 228 here. We've got multiple 228 mechs being shot by SA's pincer situation here. Now they have pushed mostly all up against SA's long-range mechs here. Lawrence getting into the back of Unfearing.
Yeah, but Giggity going down to to Kevstar and that Huntsman Prime, flinging the ATMs, Captain Judas smashing him with the ERPPCs on his Vapor Eagle Pop-Tart. It's not a good situation here because although they chose to push, Giggity, I guess, did not look at that mini-map. He walked out a little bit too far into the middle of the map. He was able to be shot by multiple SA guys, and they just tag-teamed him and took him down. Now you've got a three-man tag team coming over here from DFA to get Unfearing in that Marauder 2C, and Kamichiwa and hopefully take both those mechs down, but at what cost here?
Captain Judas looks like he's about to go down. Kamichiwa does go down. Captain Judas does as well.
Yeah, trading kills here very quickly. Looks like we've got Kevstar and the Huntsman Prime, Invictus bearing down on him, but does that Madcat Mark II have weapons? Yes, he does. He has his arms, so there's a chance. Oh, nice shot.
Kevstar
does go down to Invictus and the Madcat Mark II Bravo, flinging those ultra autocannons, losing half of them just then, but
Seabiscuit attempting to take out Yin Yang here.
In fact, Seabiscuit may be almost MVP for this match. Looking back at this, just so much time wasted by Yin Yang and not Capstar, but Captain Judas and that Vapor Eagle Pop-Tart playing with Seabiscuit in the middle, while three mechs from 228th DFA running down their long-range support. So now Yin Yang and the Summoner, both of his PPCs still intact. I think all of his weapons still good.
And he does have the long-range capability against Invictus, Seabiscuit, and Foxy.
He's got a single PPC and a Dream.
He's got a single PPC, but he does have the Dream, and he's trying to keep that Dream alive right now. He does have the capability of taking out Seabiscuit. He can easily kite him, and we're using those jump jets, can Pop-Tart him. Looks like Seabiscuit doesn't know where he is right now.
So Seabiscuit's not in a good place. He's legged. Invictus actually really healthy, relatively speaking. Left arm's the only thing damaged on Invictus. That Madcat Mark II Bravo just terrifying, marching towards the Summoner to put it down. And again, we see mechs without weapons are haunting DFA. The Foxy Short Bus only has a light tag left on that Vapor Eagle, so he is a non-threat at this point.
Invictus, slow, relenting. Unyielding.
Yeah, moving towards this guy. I mean, this is actually a really relatively close match here. This could be a nail biter if he's able to take out Biscuit and that Mislinks. Then Invictus is gonna. Invictus is now gonna have a tough time, like sort of cornering Yin Yang as he moves around the map.
If Yin Yang keeps
maybe
his
a mistake
distance,
here though.
If he can keep his distance from Invictus.
Nope. This was a mistake. I think. Got to get that arm off. No, he doesn't quite get it.
All right, so round two. That was very exciting.
Oh, man.
Foxy and Invictus, 39 and 34%.
Yeah, Invictus really holding his own there. Yeah, he wasn't out. And we'll look at this on the map in a minute, and I'll kind of run through what happened. But the damage numbers here are pretty spectacular. 833 damage on that Vapor Eagle. Ton for ton, that thing just packs a huge punch. Those ATMs really laying into people at sort of close to mid-range. 130 to 250 meters, doing 3 damage per missile, something along those lines. And Biscuit with the Mislinks G and a strong performance compared to the WKL match, coming out with 658 damage and a kill.
Indeed, very strong performance from Seabiscuit. You mentioned earlier he was probably the MVP on that team, and I still want to say that he was, even though Foxy did almost 850 damage there in that Vapor Eagle. Seabiscuit getting into the backs of Smoke Adders and doing some heavy damage. Great job by both teams.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal match to watch, especially from in the cockpits of a couple of these mechs. I know that there's some issues getting like the mainstream channel into the cockpits and back out again, but trust me, from the cockpit view, that was a real nail biter. If one mech had made a different move, if Invictus hadn't been there to capitalize when he was, that could have easily gone in SA's favor. It didn't look like it on this, may not have looked like it on the stream with 3 mechs to 1, but those 3 mechs on DFA's side were not healthy, and I think that Yin Yang had the legs to actually make that work, but he would have needed to play that perfectly, and that's a little too much to ask when you've got just that much pressure bearing down on you with those heavier mechs still up on the field.
For sure. DFA at the beginning of the match it looked a little hairy for DFA there, because when they made that initial push against Smoke Adder's long range mechs, they had a bit of a pincer situation where Smoke Adders was able to fire on them from two different angles, and they weren't really sure. From seeing the third person perspective, it looked like they weren't quite sure which direction they wanted to go as soon as they went down that hill. I think it ended up a little bit better for them than maybe they realized as well, because as close as that match was, it was very close there near the end. And as you said again, Foxy, Seabiscuit, in that Mistlinks and that Vapor Eagle are doing a really good job. I think if they were just a little bit tighter for that initial push, and if they had more of a direction as to where they wanted to go and where they needed to be, I think that would have been possibly a much different fight. I've got the map spread up here. Let's take a look at it. And Panic, I'll get you to do your ever classic post-game analysis.
Well, so in that game, you had the same thing happen. You got DFA starting up in this top Team 2 corner, running down here to this, and probably having an existential crisis about where the tip of that arrow is, saying to themselves, oh God, this is where we were just literally 15 minutes ago. Not again. Because they could easily see the mechs that were sitting out here, ERPPCs on the Vapor Eagle and on the Marauder 2C. And they were probably, really rallied from that previous match, said to themselves, no, if we get there and they've got long range on that hill, we've got to go. And that's, for a tournament when you don't have a lot of time to process the defeat and what happened and what led to the loss, the best you can hope for is something like this, where they grouped up, they rallied, they said, okay, yeah, that's probably it. That's, we've got to do this. So you saw them push down here. It was not an optimal push. You noticed that a couple of their mechs went around the long way. A couple of their mechs came up on this hill. They lost Giggity, the other Madcat Mark II Bravo, right here because he was taking combined fire. SA had a great firing line set up at the start. Just a couple of these mechs up here actually on top, and a couple of them down here. So they kind of looked like this. That's not exact. Again, I don't have photographic memory for mech positions, but there again, you see DFA pushing across a line of fire, but this time it's different because as compared to Canyon Network, there's a lot of clutter in that area. You have these buildings right here that actually shield your mechs pretty well. So even though SA had this sort of concave here set up, ready for them to push down, ready for this push here, those buildings prevented them from capitalizing on that cross. And he has Seabiscuit standing right here and sort of, messing with, I'm assuming he had the other light mech with him. I wasn't paying too much attention. I'll admit, no, I think the other light mech came over here. But anyway, Seabiscuit sitting here on this red X, really harassing two of the mechs from SA. You had Yin Yang and the Vapor Eagle up here trying to put fire down on the approaching DFA team, but not able to do that because they had this mislink sort of, right at their feet, biting at their ankles. And you get this, they just panic. They looked like they spent a lot of time really focusing on that little light mech running around, threatening them, as opposed to just killing the big stuff on the field.
It's a lot
of teams will end up in this sort of situation where they've got to kill those little lights. You have to be able to, you hear it again, you've heard it once, you've heard it 1,000 times in public queue where somebody's complaining about a light mech nearby them. Newsflash, shoot it. It doesn't have much armor. You need to remove it from the field, and you need to be able to hit it. If you can't do that under pressure, you're going to have a bad time. That's pretty much the long and short of this match. The mechs on the red line kind of came up behind these two guys from SA who tried to deal with it as best they could, but with a light mech and Mad Cat Mark II and a Vapor Eagle bearing down on you, you can't really do much in response, especially if you've chosen this PPC route. These PPCs have lower DPS than almost any other weapons loadout in the game, right? You're really struggling. ER large is the only thing that's about worse, but if this guy's close with you, and they did, and they took sacrifices, and it looked dirty, but they got there. And because they got there, they were able to drop those two mechs. Then they turned the momentum. They said, okay, we've got those two. Those two mechs are down. So SA has this one guy sitting here, and Seabiscuit cleaned up this Vapor Eagle before he got cut down, and then the Summoner was here and hurt. So the three-man crew that started here, bang, Huntsman dead, bang, whatever it was, Vapor Eagle down, and then all of a sudden you're left with just this one Summoner that's got to make the plays. And we could Monday morning quarterback his performance in the Summoner. I think he did a fantastic job dropping down low, rotating around, getting that pick on Seabiscuit here, noticing that the mechs that were on DFA's team that were remaining had a speed disparity. So you've got the Vapor Eagle moving at a mid speed. You've got the little legged light mech that's already up there, so he's out in front, and the slow assault mech he did a great job sort of straggling them out and trying to take them out one by one, and just, made the decision, which at the time you can, like I said, you can pick it apart if you want to, but he ended up face to face with Invictus, who had managed to hold on to one arm, therefore one Ultra 10 and one Ultra 5 on that Mad Cat Mark II Bravo, and Invictus has the aim to put that guy down at the end of the game. It was a clutch play, and it was a good play.
All right, so it looks like round 3 is going to be on Conquest. We are waiting on the map selection, so Panic if you want to get that done. It looks like both teams are ready to go.
All right, we'll roll the maps. So remember, this last one is Forest Colony Classic. I believe it's just Forest Colony Classic, not Forest Colony Snow Classic. I'll double check the rules just so I don't.
Drop 3 is Forest
Colony Snow Classic.
High
So it's all
Rift,
cold maps.
and Frozen City Night Classic.
All right, so I will roll. Drum roll. Oh boy, I wasn't expecting to actually get a drum roll. It is Forest Colony Snow Classic. Thank you, sir, for the drum roll. So we've got Forest Colony Snow Classic. I'll be finding that map and throwing these guys into it.
All right, so Forest Colony Snow Classic, not a map that I have seen yet in this tournament, so that's going to be interesting to see what we see here.
Really? Yeah, not in this tournament, but this is kind of a meme map, right? You've got the tunnel, you've got some of the old style of trees that don't fall down. You can't see through them. You can't knock them over. There's the big boat in the middle of the water. There's a lot of stuff in here. It brings back a lot of memories from older tournaments, like the first engagement, I think, was played on this, and also we had Swords of Kentaris camped the tunnel against House of Lords back in the day. So interesting memories, but right now we've got these two teams poised to do combat.
All right. Seabiscuit there says nuclear weapons iconic match beginning phrase because nuclear weapon is not here.
Yes, die and rage quit.
Die. So we've got on 228 side Draven and Seabiscuit and Assassins, Pickled Axe and Turbo JLo in Stormcrows, and Invictus and Giggity and a linebacker over on Smoke Adders. Similar setup. We've got Assassins, Arctic Wolves, one Mad Cat Bravo, a Huntsman, and a Mad Cat 2C. A Marauder 2C.
Now this is going to be an interesting map because there's a lot of context clues you can use to find a tunnel rush, which is exactly what's happening. So everyone buckle up. If Captain Judas right here, this assassin sitting on the middle ridge, is able to put 2 and 2 together, he will understand that he cannot see anybody, nobody is shooting at him, and nothing is being capped. So they should know at this point that it is a tunnel rush, or they're camping in Pickle Factory, which is the area of the map above tunnel.
Now the only issue is They've
they've
been
seen
seen
them
already.
Yep.
The only issue for 228 now is that there's no advantage for going tunnel right now. Besides,
He did get them close in cover. However, because they were scouted out early and because Unfearing and Yin Yang, their initial movement was out into water. Now 228 has got to deal with these two long-ranged mechs with lower DPS, but definitely a lot of punch, which are now going to have the range on them. And so they've got to find a way to close with the Mad Cat Mark II-1, which I believe is the ER Larges and Goose.
Smoke Adder is actually doing a very good job of kiting 228 here. 228 attempting to get into their optimal range. Giggity Goo in this linebacker taking some shots from Seabiscuit and Mad Cat 3050 out by himself. Seabiscuit and Invictus here coming on in to help.
This is a good play, actually. This is kind of it's kind of a mistake and a good play at the same time. That central hill is actually kind of where they needed to meet these guys. Probably that was the closest point.
Go down.
Yeah, but they split their team. You never split the party, and this is why. Brief correction while this furball develops. The Yin Yang is actually in the classic Mad Cat Mark II-1 with the ERPPCs and Goose. So he's got a potential to incur some heat penalties there and shut down, but so far he seems to be delivering a lot of damage with that mech onto these 228 mechs.
Draven Cult does go down in an assassin there.
Yeah, this is looking like, again, the numbers issue is going to become a problem. If you zoom out, you can see that SA has a really nice concave setup, ready to receive these 228 guys as they come in, with Unfearing on the far side and Kevstar on the other. Yin Yang just in the middle, just delivering punishment as 228 attempts to cross the water.
Invictus is in an interesting spot in that linebacker there. He may be legged.
I mean, he's certainly not doing much damage at that range with those machine guns. I think those are beyond max. Oh, no, he's got them in on Judas now. Nice. Got one kill there.
Does go down. Invictus does go down though, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And round 3 does go to Smoke Adders.
Smoke Adder's delivering a dominant performance on Forest Colony Classic Snow. They've said, they've seen DFA rush twice, and they said, hold on, let us go water. We'll tell you how this is going to wind up. It's like, we'll teach you how this is done. So they backed up. They made that concave. They saw the DFA guy scouted out early. You put 2 and 2 together. You can use process of elimination to find out they're going tunnel, and what you end up with is, Kevster and that Huntsman, 668 damage, able to position those ATMs to appropriately punish DFA, Unfearing at 538, and that ERPPC Marauder 2C. Just a good performance overall by SA.
Yeah, we did see 228 attempt to make a push, but again, Smoke Adders did a very good job of kiting them and making sure that they stay at their optimal range here. Let's take a look at the map strat here as we go back into the lobby.
Yeah, so that'll be a 2-1 victory for SA over DFA in this series. So that's the end of this series, but we'll roll through the map strat and break it down.
At the same time, let's see if we can get a post-game interview here with the team leads. So that was the classic Forest Colony.
Nope.
No.
I had it up already. Yep,
there we
good.
go. All right.
Excellent.
So looking at the map strat here, Panic, let's have you walk us through it. What did we see?
Well, we saw this, which is kind of like the classic meme play of doing a tunnel rush on Forest Colony. You end up out at this decision point where you've got to choose to either go under the natural bridge or turn right and go into the middle of the map. Meanwhile, SA had a couple guys watching this happen. Specifically, that one mech there. BLK, was it a Black Lantern over there? I wasn't sure. I didn't clock that guy entirely. There were Mad Cat and there were Marauder were out in the water somewhere here, and then a couple mechs that were just here, and you had the Assassin that was a key point here. So the real critical moment here was when that Assassin stepped up onto the stepped up onto that ridge in the middle of the map. So if he steps up there and you've got a control deck, right? Maybe you've got a guy up by radio tower, you've got a guy back here, you've got some stuff back in rock pile where we saw EMP play. You're gonna get shot. Okay, it's just gonna happen. Somebody's gonna plink at you with long range stuff, and as an assassin at that range, you're not too worried. Maybe you're gonna take the worst you're probably gonna take if you do a flyby is maybe like a round of AC2 or some Gauss, but at that range, it's not gonna cripple you, and you need the information. But what they saw was nothing, right? And in the absence of everything, you have to think, where on the map could they be where if they were standing right now, one, they wouldn't shoot at me, and two, I can see them. And the answers are here, back in this little pickle factory area up on this hill, or two, in this tunnel. So knowing that, they sort of rotated these guys farther out in the water. They had this dude up on the hill here just staring through the natural bridge, and actually you could see him take a shot as they came out of the tunnel with a large laser and hit somebody as they exited. They very appropriately played that, and when it was clear that they were coming through tunnel, they rotated their team out into water, and they made, at the end of the day, this firing line right about there and just demolished the 228th team as they tried to make this split push. The 228th guys, it looked like they had a consensus until a certain point on the edge of the land. I'm not sure if they came. I think they came this way, but the minutia isn't really important. The end result is, and that was that they had 3 mechs come out here chasing after the Madcap Mark II, and then they had 3 mechs come this way chasing after a tight pack of people from SA that were positioned on this corner. And regardless of how you slice that or what you think should have happened, or again picking it apart any number of ways, the only thing that was clearly hurting them in that moment was that they were split up 3 and 3, and 3 guys really couldn't engage on the same targets. They ended up losing 1 from each group really early, and then SA was able to just continually back up and engage those targets as they closed and dominate them. That's really the end of at the end of the day. The water really favored SA's long range builds. They were able to scout it early and respond effectively.
That's true. SA did have on that bottom blue line. They had mainly their long range mechs. So if 228 had actually done a movement similar to what I've illustrated here, as I said, they did have a bunch of. Sorry, SA had a bunch of their long range mechs posted up around these dots here. Try to make those dots bigger. So I think if DFA had actually been able to make a move closer to their longer range mechs, that would have actually kind of not sightlined themselves from SA's shorter range mechs, but it definitely would have disallowed SA's shorter range mechs to take as much punishment to DFA as it did, and I think DFA may have had a better chance. But yeah, as you said, unfortunately they did do a split push, and that unfortunately cost them the match there.
Yeah, I think that, all right, you could play that out however you'd like, but at the end of the day, like if you've got a furball team, as you kind of noticed in that last match, the only thing that really benefits a furball team, not the Forest Colony with the Grim Plexus, is some like one spoiler mech that's distracting the cover that's supposed to prevent your close range guys from closing in with the remainder of that team. So yeah, it's kind of it's right.
Another nod to SA is that they did see that push quickly. You did mention that a little bit earlier. They did have once they came out of that tunnel, they had that mech up there on that circle that immediately saw it and immediately started to move. I believe one of the DFA teams did actually attempt to take a shot at that mech. I think a stealth option would have been a better idea for DFA instead of actually taking a shot and getting some damage very early on a SA mech. Then now SA knows where they are. It might have been a little bit more beneficial to actually have DFA go along that blue line up there at the top that you've drawn. And if for example that SA mech up on that hill wasn't looking directly at that tunnel, which he was at the time, but if for example he was looking off at Kappa, if they had not shot off at him, maybe they could have gone over to Sigma and got a lot closer than they did before SA was able to realize them.
I don't think so. You got to think about this like the logical way. These teams have fairly experienced players. They know what they're doing. Actually, SA has a benefit of having guys like Unfearing on their team that have been around for a long time, that have actually played this map, dropped on this map in anger in an actual tournament, in previous on previous teams. So he's got a lot of experience. I know probably a couple of the other guys also have some there as well. Not to discredit them, I just know his name more familiar. But like I said, it's process of elimination. If you can get a guy up here and he scouts and his field of view basically ends, you can see everything that isn't behind this rock. You can see up to these rocks here. You can see the top of this rock. You can see the top radio tower. You can see this area here, which is a big deal. You can see all of this. So, if they're not in any of those places, that really limits the options for where they could be that you would care about. You have to preface that. Like, they could be here, but do you really care if they're there? If they're all sitting there? No, because you've got mechs that can go out to water and that can put fire down on those guys really easily. If they're sitting back here, then they have no map control, so you don't care about that either. If they're sitting here, no map control. Again, they can't do anything if you try to take all the caps. You can get a 4 cap if they're going to camp up there, so you don't really care about that either. What you do care about is them closing in on you, and the only place that's left on the map that they could be doing that with is through the tunnel. So that basically, as soon as that assassin popped up there and scouted everything, I'm sure at least half of the SA's guys looked around and said, they're probably tunnel. They shouldn't be tunnel probably, but they're probably tunnel. They have that discussion of like, surely not, but at the end of the day, that's what it was. And I'm sure they were able to sort of suss that out fast enough to be able to react, irrespective of actually shooting that guy at the tunnel entrance. I think that at the time that they came out here, that the guy that was sitting up on the hill here was probably just waiting as opposed to looking. He was just waiting for a target to come out. So each their own. At that point, I think they had that clocked from very early on.
A few final things to mention. DFA did kind of make a push into an open ground area and really allow smoke adders to get a lot of shots on them. I think if they had been able to use the terrain a little bit more to their advantage, they might have been able to get a little bit closer to SA. Now, SA did go out far into the water, but I think they could have used the terrain a little bit more to their advantage. That being said, though, final match for this pairing here does go to Smoke Adders with 2 rounds won. That was a drop 3. So what does it look like? What does it look like for? I think that was the final match of tonight. Correct, Panic?
Yeah, that's the last one this evening. So we should be watching for the final stage to be updated on the challenge website. I don't know if we've got a mod sitting in chat that can link that, but you'll be able to see that get updated with the you link the challenge site. Should have group stage at the right below the MW Summer Grand Prix banner. I should have group stage, and to the right of it, final stage. That final stage should give you guys the a rundown of what's going to happen, I believe, next weekend. That should be some exciting elimination rounds, ending in but with the crowning of the Summer Grand Prix champion.
Yep, so I've posted those. I posted that link there in chat. Now, one last question I have for you here, Panic. Are we going to get team leads into this channel here for a interview, or is that not happening?
That's a question.
Because it looks they have definitely left the lobby, so we can't ask them. Let's see if maybe you can get them here real quick.
I have them on. I have both of them on Discord.
All right. Well, fire off a quick message there. So yes, as Panic was saying, we will have the semifinals and finals taking place next Friday and Saturday. So you want to make sure you tune into that.
Yeah, okay, we're gonna get Unfearing in here for SA, and then believe we'll get one of the officers from Death from Above to come up and talk to us. I guess let's do that on the Discord if we just to keep it consistent, right?
Sure. Let's move on over to Discord here.
Uh,
Seabiscuit.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey.
Hey, Biscuit.
Hey, what's up?
Well, funny you should ask. I'm helping cast Grand Prix right now.
Yeah, there's a tournament going on right now,
Did
Seabiscuit.
you know?
Did you know?
What now?
Did they not know?
I don't know if they knew.
Oh, we saw
So-
that firsthand.
Unfearing Seabiscuit, welcome on in. Thank you guys for taking a few minutes out of your day to interview with us here.
Uh-huh.
All right, so coming from the matches, how did you feel about those matches? Tell us about it. What are some of your thoughts?
Let's start with Biscuit.
I want to watch Drop 2 again.
Okay. Or what about you guys on Fearing? How do you feel that went for you? Did everything go sort of as anticipated, or was surprising about that to you?
It went about as anticipated, although I really feel like they were steamrolling us in the first one, but then I did 600 or 700 in the Ani somehow. But the second one, it felt positioned correctly, but our ATMs were going to the wrong mechs instead of a misling. The third one, I think it went okay.
So, and that to piggyback off of that, their Biscuit, he said he felt like he was getting steamrolled in drop one, but from your position, what did drop one feel like? What was the intent with that really neat triple double deck, and how did that pan out?
It didn't go as anticipated. We started off going great, and then for some reason people didn't hold W over the side of the cliff to keep following their big mechs down into Death Valley, and we just died one by one. I thought we were gonna win just off of you guys not paying attention. I was out of the brawl initially just because I saw everybody left the circle and we were counting it down.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
they
we
could
were
have
at,
won it.
yeah, it was in the I think we got to 10 or 11 seconds left.
Oh,
Yeah, it was really pretty close on domination. Neither of us made commentary on it though, so I'm gonna pretend like.
Yeah, I know I didn't say anything about it.
The domination circle is kind of entertaining. On some of those maps, it just seems like it's a non-factor. I mean, neither of you guys seem like. Would it be correct to assume that SA was somebody paying attention to that on your team specifically, or did you just step back into the circle on accident?
I think at that moment we were definitely just focusing on kill these 20 linebackers and those 20 Stormcrows, but I think we just stepped into it on that one. I was also lagging out in the beginning, so we barely got any initial scratch damage on their push.
Interesting.
I did notice during that one Grim Plexus match, it was I'm thinking of a different match. Never mind.
So on drop 2, Biscuit, because this is kind of a specific phenomenon to your team, how much did what happened in the previous matchup against WKL influence what you actually did in the SA match on that Plexus drop?
It was not just that previous match, but it was both previous matches on Grim against RJF and against White Knight Legion, where we got to an advantage position, forward position with our Mad Cats, and then stopped moving, and then tried to play a game that we weren't designed. And then I basically just said we're not fucking doing that again. And if we see them, we're pushing into them, and don't stop moving. We're pushing into them, and I'll make sure we don't lose from domination. And that's pretty much how Drop 2 evolved. And I was basically trying to get shot at by the Summoner and Vapor Eagle, but not die to the Summoner and Vapor Eagle, to make sure that we won the fight across the way on Epsey's Hill.
You were trying to spread that damage.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think I don't know what my percentage was, but I was really low before I died.
Yeah, you were halved in one touch and missing a leg. Fairly impressive. The for unfearing, I actually am honestly curious about the choice for the Marauder 2C8. If that wasn't asked last time, why is that mech worth the risk? Given that two of those maps are very hot. I know that you have a reason for it. I just kind of want to hear you say it, and if you could walk us through like what you were thinking about throughout the course of that match, because I think you had pretty good lines, and then suddenly there were 3 mechs from DFA on top of you.
Oh, right. Well, I think that part with the 3 mechs ending up on top of me, that was facilitated by their Piranha. So I was getting shots, and we had like 2 sub-main groups trying to shoot at their main. The Piranha came in, I had to take some shots. I kind of tried to get Kamichiwa to get some shots in too. But at that point, since we're all kind of dipping down, and you guys had lights going in on our other Pop-Tarts, like, we just didn't get the coverage from everyone else. So it didn't quite work out there because we're getting a little bit jumped and ATMs weren't hitting the right max. In terms of like why taking Mariah 2C and 2 maps being hot, it's not really that hot if you kind of invest in ops as well as heat gen. The lines are pretty good, and I also like the terrain with the Marauder 2C on Tourmaline and Grim particularly. Rubo, like the range also works out pretty well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now to satisfy my own prediction, how early did you guys on drop 3 know that DFA was coming through tunnel?
So when you spawn on Forest Colony, it has this nice feature where you can see if anyone crosses Charlie 3 area towards Kappa, and we didn't see anyone coming that way like at all. So we knew that either 228 was chilling in the base, or they'd already all tucked in and gone towards the Pickle Factory. So we were already expecting the tunnel rush. And then once we got some confirmed that they'd come out the arc side, we just kind of moved out into the water.
Yeah. Okay. So to that point, then, Biscuit, what was the thought behind the tunnel?
We figured they'd bring range, so we wanted to break the distance as painlessly as possible, and going in the tunnel, I think, is the best way to do. That being said, I know there's one point in that match after we had just left the tunnel and the Black Lantern left, and we basically, I think most of us dodged that strike that was there, that you guys had 0 people able to shoot us, and we could have had like a 3 or a 4 cap on you guys, and instead we pushed. So I think we threw that game just by not paying attention to the actual game mode.
Yeah, drop 3 was a conquest situation, so now that being said, Seabiscuit, we'll start with you, and then I'll ask the question to Unfearing here. In terms of mechs and decks for the matches that you guys had tonight, kind of walk us through what your main goal in terms of your deck looked like, because with a rule set like this where you're not able to know what map you're going to drop on, kind of walk us through how you guys figure out what overall like range and deck composition you guys want, and then how do you guys handle that during the matches, like during the drops?
You want to go first, Seabiscuit?
Yeah, so Seabiscuit, we'll start with you here.
Okay. Yeah, the first drop, we initially had a separate drop deck set aside to play. But honestly, we saw you lose to our B team with them using a similar strategy as, to what we were trying to do there. So we kind of wanted to lean on that knowledge and try and pull out a victory on that. It just didn't work out as planned. We stumbled, and you guys just picked right up on us stumbling and took the win. Honestly, it felt like a pretty convincing win for us by the time the Warhammer died.
Right.
The Stormcrows, for those asking, I think they had like a 70 alpha, and we were just trying to kill stuff as quickly as possible. So
And then for unfearing?
Oh, are we gonna go through all the drops or just like drop by drop?
You don't have to go through the drops if you want. If you just want to go kind of like a general idea as to what you had, what you wanted to do, you can do that way, or you can go similar to how Seabiscuit did it here.
I guess like in general, like when you see Canyon Mining Viridian, you think of the map size as well as the sight lines. So I'm thinking like, oh, how do we like play a certain style as well as like capitalize on the features of the map? Like mining Pop-Tarts are always good, but there's like short sight lines or short windows of opportunity. So like extreme DPS isn't always the best option. So you're usually left down to like, you know, get some strong pinpoint in there or like bring in like a brawl kind of strategy. So that's kind of how we think it for drop 1. For drop 2, it's like a lot more sight lines, a lot more open, a lot more flexibility for different things to happen. And in most cases, we're thinking like, oh, we want to have light mechs do these things, we want main do this thing, and then you start running out mechs for each side to be super strong. So then there's this weapon system called ATMs, which kind of works out kind of well. So those have been pretty good. The 2-2 Ace ATMs did really well on Grim, so that's always a good mech to have, especially for these maps that were chosen.
So you guys took a look at the maps ahead of time and kind of prepared your deck for all 3 situations just in case?
More or less.
Is that kind of
it's
kind
kind of
okay,
like
that's cool.
You kind of think like, oh, well, we kind of want to do this thing on this one, and then we should expect these things. And yeah, we came up with the decks maybe 24 hours beforehand. We were just reading the rules, and then yeah, we came up with decks pretty last minute. So we're not sure it was the best decks, but it was okay.
That's cool nonetheless.
Seemed to play out in your favor.
Yeah.
So you guys ran. I know that you ran at least one Vapor Eagle with PPCs rather than ATMs. Do you feel like just as a sort of an offshoot here? Do you feel like the ATM, the Huntsman is a more suitable ATM platform, or do you guys just not prefer the Vapor Eagle with ATMs, or is there a specific reason for that mech choice? Because I know that like, not for my own personal opinion, but whenever I go into queue, if I see a Vapor Eagle, like 9 times out of 10, it's got ATMs on it, right? So I was just curious.
Well, some of our pilots were kind of taking a liking to triple PPC, and for me, it's like, okay, Vapor Eagle, Pop-Tart, Peeps, that sounds pretty good. I've honestly never even played a Vapor Eagle yet, but it seems conceptually good. But the thing is that if we want to take double Vapor Eagle, we could obviously do 1 ATM, 1 PPC, but then you take the 10-ton penalty. So it's mostly for tonnage reasons. So when you're deciding between a Vapor Eagle or Huntsman for ATMs, obviously Vapor Eagle is better, but Huntsman is serviceable, and it lets the Vapor Eagle do something else.
Nice. And then I get one more question as falling because for reasons which I'll explain in a minute if nothing pans out here. But for Biscuit, did you guys? I know that you guys sort of tried to capitalize on the 10-ton penalty for duplicate mechs. That really quick deck. Was there a reason that you felt that those specific mechs, the Stormcrows, the Assassins, and the Linebackers were better served, or were like the best choices to fill those roles? And how did you arrive at those mechs?
Yeah, so the idea was to take down one mech instantly, and then once that mech is down, either move to the next mech, or if they split up, like most decent teams will, I wanted us to be using mechs that could win a 1v1. So I was taking Solaris, Stormcrows, and Splat Linebackers, mechs that are really good at staying on top of other mechs and just dishing out DPS just as much as possible. It didn't really work out today like it did yesterday when we tried it. But prior to this, it was our most successful deck that we had played, and it didn't work out today.
Oh, well played from both teams. Currently, we're trying to get the numbers crunched so we can find out who's actually where in the upcoming elimination bracket. So how do you guys going forward? If you guys playing next weekend, I'm not sure. Again, we're crunching the numbers at this point. There was apparently almost comically, there was a tie that went past the first at least 2 tiebreakers. between two teams. But you guys feel like you're going to change the decks or or move anything around between now and next week?
Oh hell yeah!
What about you
So-
guys on Fearing?
Wait, are we playing next week as well, or what's the elimination thing? I saw there was like a 3-way tie for.
Yeah, one.
second.
I'm stalling for time, but come with me. Answer my questions. No, so right now they're trying to crunch the numbers. We just got them the match IDs, and so they should have an answer for that. But if you guys are playing next weekend, are you guys going to change anything significantly, or work on anything, or explore any new tactics, or what's your idea, or just keep rolling forward with what's been working?
Well, if we're playing next week, okay. I'll ignore that. I think like if we're playing next week, then yeah, we'll look at some of the mechs. I usually like to ask the pilots personally, like what they felt, and then also some other team members on the receiving side of like, oh, we're in a 1v2 and your teammate didn't help you, like what they think about the mechs. So maybe we'll change out a couple mechs, but for the most part, I think it's a pretty good idea. Or maybe we'll just change everything because figuring out what everyone's playing, so maybe we'll have to change it.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, you can feel free to ignore the if. I'm just unsure about where everyone's landing, but I know that you guys won at least a couple matches in this group stage, right? The SA three matches won, 1 match lost, so standings are good. Right now, you're in rank 2, right, with a tie, so that means that you'll be set to advance to next week. Unfortunately, that the DFA is not likely to return here. So next week we'll look forward to seeing what you guys come up with. If you ask your pilots, if you guys change anything around, we'll see how this pans out. Absolutely exciting. Hopefully you'll be able to take the upset to the RJF, who are currently sort of the favorites and sitting at this undefeated position.
Yeah. So do we know what the third tiebreaker is? Is it like straight kills or something?
Unaware. You look to the Group A stands on the MWO Summer Grand Prix page. As soon as those last IDs are in, we will update that with the appropriate standings. Right now, as it sits, I will report to everyone just so they don't have to go and do that. You could be lazy. Right now, rank 1 is RJF. Set to advance in Seed 1 position. Rank 2 is Smoke Adder, and rank 3 is WKL. The tie is actually between 3 and 4, which is WKL and Snackwatch, captained by Seneschal. The other part of that 3-way tie is DFA. So right now, DFA is sort of in a tenuous position. You guys said you'd change stuff next week, though, right? So we expect to see a lot of those strategies depending on how this tiebreaker shakes out. If you were to come back, those will be different, right?
Oh yeah.
I certainly look forward to that. Very excited.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it for sure.
So everyone, pay attention to that webpage if you're curious about it. So again, the 3-way tie is between WKL, Snackwatch, and DFA for 3rd place. So the last remaining slot to advance to next weekend's elimination stage.
Yep, that'll be at Friday and Saturday at the same time that they started tonight, 9 p.m. EST.
Yep, we'll look forward to having Unfearing back.
I think it's EDT, right?
It's EDT. Some certain teams don't operate on.
Yeah, it's
We do daylight savings time because we're weird. So that's cool.
Can confirm we are weird. All right, Seabiscuit and Unfearing, thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to participate in these matches and join us here in this interview. Panic, if you don't have any other further questions, I think we'll wrap things up here.
Nope, my last words are don't trust me on the times. Please, God, message Oblivion Shadow Knight, people that are coming back next week, and make sure you've got the times just to keep everything sort of on time and operating smoothly. So Unfearing or Mad Cat, whichever one of you guys, just DM him on Discord and make sure that you guys have the correct time. We don't want to have a confusion.
Yep, keep an eye on the Discord.
Yeah.
We'll get it right.
Yeah, GG's to everybody.
Yeah, just keep an eye on the Discord, Summer Grand Prix, the MWO Comp Discord, and you shouldn't have any issues. And yeah, GG's guys tonight. Good matches. They were fun to watch.
Yeah, thanks guys.
GG Biscuit. Thank you, Panic and Pickle.
You're welcome. All right, Panic, let's head on over back to TS. All right, Panic. So,
Yeah, I apologize to everyone on the stream for me delaying and stalling until we get those match results in, but it's okay, right?
That's all right.
Everyone
It's fine.
enjoyed that.
everyone enjoyed interviews.
Interview was
were
lovely.
great. Yeah, they actually were. The interviews were really good. So, so I think if there's nothing else, I think we're gonna wrap things up here. I don't have anything else to say. I'm excited to see what matches are going to be paired for next week, and of course myself, I'll be casting it. Panic, you'll be around then, right?
Yeah, I may or may not be back next week. I was happy to stand in here and cast alongside Pickle today, so thank you for bearing with me, as this is actually my first time casting a tournament.
Is
so
it your first time casting?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't have noticed at all. You did a really good job.
I appreciate that. But anyway, thank you all for showing up, I guess, and tuning in. And tune in next weekend for the exciting conclusion of the 228 sponsored Summer Grand Prix.
Yep. All right, I'm gonna end the stream here and join you in TS in just a few minutes. All right. All right, guys and gals, thank you all for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed the matches. And yes, that's going to be it for us tonight. As Panic said, the semifinals and final pairings and finals will be taking place next Friday and Saturday at 9 p.m. EST. Hope to see you all there. And in the meantime, have yourselves a great weekend. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And enjoy your time. We'll see you later, guys. Thanks for tuning in.